ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 2 of the series What If Deku Was Abandoned in the Woods and Became a Monster. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. My animal instincts were telling me there was an apex predator present, and I shouldn't look at him lest I offend them. I don't know how Niza managed it. He explained with little growls. It wasn't easy, but I knew Izuku wasn't a bloodthirsty killer. Even though he was reeking of blood, Nizu rubbed his snout. Izuku and Shinso walked behind Aizawa. Is he a hero? He doesn't look like it. Izuku turned to Shinso. Shinso cringed at the loud voice. I think he's an underground hero. Those are heroes that work at night mainly and stay away from the limelight. You're correct, Aizawa said back. Oh, Shinso, that would be right up your alley with your quirk. Izuku continued to observe Aizawa. Kid, I can feel your eyes on me. Please stop looking at me like your next meal. Aizawa gave a minuscule shiver. Oh, sure, I'll stop. Izuku turned to Shinso. Did I ever do that to you? He waved his concerns away. Only at first. They walked into the sunlight, into a parking lot. Aizawa stopped and turned to Izuku. How much stuff do you have? Which car would be the best? He gestured to the cars parked. Izuku hummed and looked at the options. He ran up to a few and peered inside. This one or that one probably. He pointed to a pickup truck or the SUV. I want to drive the truck. Midnight came out in civilian clothes and sporting a smile. Ooh, that's your normal clothes and your hero clothes are put away. Izuku turned to Aizawa. Midnight burst out laughing and Shinso didn't know what to do but stood there stock still. No kiddo, that's his hero clothes. Call me Namuri Kiyama when you see me like this. Either name is fine. She grabbed keys from a box on the wall and turned to them. The four boarded the truck and when Izuku stepped in, the truck dipped significantly. They looked at him in surprise. Dense muscles and steel-covered bones. He said by explanation, the UA's staff didn't change their expressions. They drove and Shinso gave the address to his house. Izuku nervously tightened his hold on his trophies as they drove. Shinso noticed first and looked worriedly. You all right, Izuku? I don't think I like driving in cars like this, Izuku said. The rest thought of the last time he was a passenger in a car. So Izuku, what do you usually do during the day? She tried to change the subject and distract him. Nothing much. Go to the library and read most of the day. When Asato closes, I head to my den and then hunt for dinner. The deer have been getting farther and farther away from my den. I think they finally figured out where I live. But it's a fun hunt to track them down. Shinso comes over sometimes, and I hunt something for the both of us. What do you read at the library? Aizawa asked in curiosity. Human and animal anatomy. Quirked human anatomy, quirked animal anatomy, and recently about heroes. One hero asked me why I wasn't in school, and that got me thinking about heroes. You read all that for your quirk? Namuri asked. Yep. Needed to know how to improve my body for better hunting. I guess now for better being a hero. What all did you do? Aizawa asked skeptically. He was worried about what the feral boy did to his body. A lot. I started with my bone and muscles. Bones I strengthened with calcium, iron, and carbon. They are coated in steel. Muscles I compressed time and time again. Ligaments were strengthened. Organs were made more spongy for impact. Added more support for my brain stem. And added a net of sorts was to prevent brain injuries. Made my spine more flexible and added more neurons connecting throughout my body for better reaction time. Externally, added features of animals to my nose, eyes, and ears. I think that's all right. I have to add something between the ribs so this guy. He waved the bloodstained shrapnel. Can't get through there again. The truck was quiet as they took in what Izuku had done to his body that's quite extensive. Did anyone help you with that? Namuri asked. Not much. Asato gave me the books I could find, and I did the rest. Shinso gave me the idea of adding organs that some quirked people have, but I would need to see one up close. But I'm pretty happy with what I've got. Izuku shrugged, casually mentioning finding out how quirks work and adding them to himself. This Asato, she works at the library? Namuri changed the subject again. Yep, she owns it I think. She's nice and helpful. I see her almost every day. She doesn't know you live in the woods? Namuri asked. She never asked and I never said. I think she thinks I'm homeless. That's kinda wrong, I guess. So it's alright if I tell Mom my friend is a feral boy in the woods? Shinso asked. I never told you to keep it a secret. Izuku enjoyed the feeling of Shinso calling him his friend. Well, that could have been nice to know. Shinso scoffed in annoyance. They soon arrived in front of the Shinso household. Everyone got out, and Izuku sniffed the air to get his bearing. A woman with straight purple hair came out of the house they stopped at, and Shinso turned to smile nervously at her. Hey, Mom, Shinso said. Toshi, what's going on? She raised an eyebrow at her son. Not much, I passed the exam. He tried to distract her. She pulled him into a hug with a smile. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. She pulled back and held him at arm's length away. Now, what's going on? She said seriously. Your son's friend was a feral boy living in the woods. He took the exam with Hitoshi, and Yue took note of Izuku. We asked him a few questions, and now Izuku is becoming a ward of Yue for his well-being. Aizawa explained in short. What? She was shocked at the revelation. You guys go on, and I'll explain it better. He glared at Aizawa, who was rubbing his arm from Namiri's punch. Izuku waved at Hitoshi's mom with a smile and walked between the neighboring house and theirs to the backyard. Namiri and Aizawa followed him, and they walked to the forest. Shinso had made a bit of a trail already, but Izuku extended a tendril with a blade on the end and cut his way through to make it easier for the two adults. Aizawa was extremely aware of the danger the teen before himself posed. He felt it when the boy locked eyes with him for the first time, and he felt it more when the boy was surrounded by seasoned heroes. While Izuku was human, he was truly a beast. They arrived in a clearing that had the faint scent of blood and musk in the air. There was a fire pit that looks like it's been used daily. A pond not far with a path worn down by its frequent visits. And in the middle of the clearing, against a tree, was a hole in the ground. The tree has been clawed once to show its territory. Here we are, Izuku said happily. I'll grab by things. He left the exam robot heads and dove into the hole. Need any help, Izuku? Namiri asked from the hole. Sure. Here, put this next to the others. Izuku placed a perfectly presented deer skull with large antlers on its bone-white skull. Namiri paled just a bit and gently it next to the robot heads. Oh, they're trophies, she said softly in realization. More skulls were thrown out of the hole, without much care except for a few. Notably one, in particular, a canine skull wore more than the others. He walked out carrying it with his tendrils, and in his hands was a large roll of animal furs. Aizawa saw furs from deer and badger to wolf and fox. Namiri and Aizawa stared at the pile of skulls, and then at the large furs Izuku held. The boy's arm split, and the furs were held on his back, while his arms reformed back to whole. It was extremely disturbing to hear the bone crack and flesh rip while his body changed. Izuku hummed and began to sift through the skulls. He examined each one. Some were gently set next to the robot and deer skulls. Others were eaten without much care. The bigger ones were broken down with some tendrils and consumed by retracting the tendril back into his body. Aizawa and Namiri watched the whole process with a bit of horror in their eyes, more in Namiri's than Aizawa's. Ah, Izuku, why are you saving some and not the others? Namiri finally asked. They aren't important enough, like these are just day-to-day hunts. Nothing impressive except for a few. The wolf skull is the one that tried to kill me, and the day I found my quirk. I went back for it a few years ago. This badger was the first time I shared a meal with Shinso. That deer has nothing special about it, but it looks nice, although it tried to fight back. Not very well, as you can see, he explained as he finished. And the furs? Aizawa asked. My bed. Izuku smiled up at them. Is that everything? Namiri asked. Izuku thought for a moment, and then extended a tendril and grabbed something. On the tendril, which split once, was a bundle of clothes and his black stone rock. He had long identified it as obsidian. While it became obsolete, it was nice to keep. Where did you get those clothes? Shinso give them to you? Namiri asked as she took them from him to help. No, I stole them. I think this one is even Shinso's, he admitted without any shame. Aizawa sighed. No more stealing things, all right? If you want something, then ask or pay for it. I'll try. Izuku shrugged, and Aizawa knew that would be a problem in the future. They walked back to the truck with Aizawa and Namiri carrying some trophies to help Izuku. They loaded everything in the back, and Shinso came out to see him off. You can have my den if you want. It'll still be mine if I ever return, but you can use it, Izuku offered. Gee, thanks. He drawled out and rolled his eyes. I'll see you in classes, I guess. Yep. I'll see you in when do classes start? Izuku turned to the adults. A month. Aizawa drawled. In a month, don't die. And if those people came after you again, tell me. His voice turned serious and he stared into his friend's eyes. The two heroes got shivers when they saw his eyes. Shinso, on the other hand, looked nonplussed. I'll be fine. Take care of yourself. Izuku nodded and then remembered about Asato. I still need to say goodbye to Asato. He turned to Namiri and Aizawa. Get in, we'll drive you there. Namiri smiled at him. They drove a few minutes away and to a smaller library compared to what Aizawa and Namiri have seen. Izuku got out and walked in without hesitation. Namiri followed a few steps behind, and Aizawa decided to stay in the truck. Izuku, how did the exam go? Asato greeted her favorite reader softly as usual. Pretty good. The teacher wanted to talk to me about my application since it didn't have much information, and they decided to make me a ward of UA. Izuku smiled brightly. Asato smiled sadly at Izuku. So you were homeless? I knew there was something, but I saw you fed well, and decently happy I chose not to pry. Not homeless. I had my den. I lived in the woods. It's nice and quiet. I was all right. Izuku shrugged. Den? In the woods? For how long? She furrowed her brows. Always. Well, when I turned around 5. What? Izuku, please explain. She motioned to a chair at Izuku's usual table, and Izuku sat. My mother didn't like that I was quirkless and left me in the middle of the woods. I managed to survive, and at 7 I found my quirk. From there it became easier. I came here to learn anatomy to better my quirk, and now I'm here. He shorted the story. Asato looked saddened at the story and turned to Namiri. You are with UA? Are they going to find his mother and arrest her for what she had done? Yes, my boss is already working on it. Namiri nodded firmly. Well, I'm glad everything is working out for you. Please take care of yourself, Izuku. She got up and embraced the boy. I'll come to visit when I can. He hugged her gently. It's been a long time since he's been embraced in this fashion, and tears cropped up at the corner of his eyes. Take care of the boy. Asato looked to Namiri and wiped tears away. I'll do my best, Namiri said seriously. They boarded the truck and they drove off to UA as the sun set. They arrived at UA without much trouble, and they walked Izuku and his things inside. Hound Dog greeted them. Hello, my name is Hound Dog, or Ryo Inui. I'll be showing you to the woods. I am in charge of the security perimeter of the woods. Hound Dog kept his eyes low when he spoke to Izuku. He did manage to flick his eyes up once, but set them down again and took a minuscule step back. Okay, thank you Namiri for your help. Aizawa, you didn't help much, but thanks anyway. Namiri snorted and covered her mouth. Aizawa's eye twitched. Don't get lost. He kept his monotone voice. Izuku smiled brightly and waved at them goodbye. He followed Ryo to a back door, and an open field stretched in front of them, and then a tree line. They walked in silence as Izuku took in the new environment. His eyes flicked to the Dogman hybrid, and he could see the hero's shoulder tense. You're afraid of me, why? Izuku could smell it. You are an apex predator to the highest degree. Even if you are a child, my instincts are telling me to run. Ryo answered with low growls. Oh, I didn't know. I never met someone with an animal quirk. Would it help if I said that I have no intention of hurting you? It does help, yes. His shoulder relaxed more, but he never raised his eyes to meet Izuku's. What do you have with you? Trophies. And my furs, some clothes I stole, and my obsidian knife. Izuku proffered the glass knife for Ryo to see. He took it gently and examined it in the fading light. I used it before I got my quirk. The wrapping is my shorts when I was 5. That helped me kill this guy or girl. I never checked. He held up the wolf skull with a cracked eye socket where the obsidian hit. Did you enjoy it? The woods? The hunt? Ryo handed back the obsidian knife. Izuku nodded. It's nice and quiet. The hunt is thrilling. But I was curious about being a hero, so I came with Shinso to try. Do you hunt? Ryo nodded his head. Rarely. The small game in the forest. He nodded to the treeline. They were near now. Where is your territory? I'll avoid it. Izuku took in the scent of the forest. It's only mine by name. This is yours now. I will be a visitor if I step in here now. Ryo shook his head. You are free to come and go. I will not stop you. Ryo huffed a laugh. That helps too. Here, this is a device if Nizu ever asks for you. It will beep and vibrate, and all you need to do is push the button, and there will be two-way communication. We will get you a proper phone in the future. He handed Izuku a black box the size of his thumb. Izuku took it and looked at it from every angle. He set it against his forearm, and it sunk slightly into his flesh. There, now I won't lose it. Ryo nodded. Call me if you need anything. Izuku nodded, and he walked into the darkening forest. Bone cracked and flesh tore as Izuku shifted. He took in the odors from the surrounding and ran with his things on his back. Ryo shivered as the boy left his range. He understood that Izuku wouldn't hurt anyone without reason, but his animal side of him wanted to bare his neck in subservience. He was no longer at the top of the food chain, Izuku was. He knew that would cause problems with other students, but they will have to deal with them as they came. Izuku's new forest was large, but nothing compared to where he grew up. It will do. Izuku ran from one corner of the forest where a wall was, to the other corner. He grew a thick tail to balance his fast-paced run as Izuku took in every foot of the new terrain. He saw some prey, but he will hold off until he found where he will make his home. He stopped at a large pond with fish swimming in it. It was deep and clear water. Izuku drank from it and decided near the pond will be good. He began to walk around the pond for a suitable spot. He found a few decent spots, but it wasn't good enough. Then he found a thick tree with hanging branches that could shade the base entirely if the sun was out. Izuku rumbled in approval and began to dig. He made sure not to damage the roots of the tree as he dug. His hands shifted into shovels, and he scooped handfuls of dirt a second. The ground around the entrance was packed tightly, and so were the walls of the interior. He looked around at his den and felt like it was missing something. His stuff was outside as he worked on his new home. He climbed out and found a tree. His arms shifted into axe blades, and he chopped the tree down in 2 earth-shaking swings. He removed the branch and had one straight log. His tendrils did quick work taking off the bark, and then he split the log into planks. Once that was done, he brought a few planks inside and set them as shelves and a solid surface for his furs. Izuku set all his things inside and gave out a satisfied nod. His trophies were set on the shelves, and his furs were on the thick planks he brought in. He left the den and shaped the entrance to prevent rain from getting in. The spare planks he used to tie together and make a door that covered the entrance. He put his signature of 3 claw marks on the outside, and then went out to hunt. The deer was healthy, and it filled him after a long day. We went to sleep on his furs with a content smile. Izuku woke up early in the morning as usual. He got the bearing of his new environment, and then woke up fully. He went out and smelled the area. He was peckish. He found a few gophers and skewed them. He lit a fire and began to cook the rodents. They were pretty big in comparison to what he'd seen in books. On his last gopher, the thing in his arm beeped and vibrated. He pulled it out with some tendril and pushed the button. Hello there, Izuku. Have you settled in all right? Nizu's voice came out of the speaker. It wasn't too loud, which he appreciated. Yep, I've made my den next to a big pond or small lake, whatever you chose to call it. That's good to hear. If you wouldn't mind, could you please come up here for a meeting? There are a few things to discuss going forward. All right, be there in a moment. Namiri will be waiting for you at the door. The device shut off. Izuku finished the last rodent and washed himself clean before changing. He dashed off in the direction of the main building. He saw Namiri open the door just as he left the tree line. He arrived, and she greeted him with a smile. How'd you sleep, Izuku? Namiri asked. Izuku smiled up at her. Really good. Do you live in UA too? We have on-staff housing, like a small house for each of us. They made their way inside and down the halls. She heard the tapping of his paws on the ground. You always keep your legs like that? Yep. Since my shoes when I was 5 were too small, and I didn't have any money available, wolf legs. He explained. We can get you shoes if you like. She offered. I like my legs how they are. Plus I can change them whenever without having to worry about shoes getting in the way. I'd figure you'd say that. Just wanted to cover my bases. What do you mean, bases? It's a saying in a sport called baseball. That's something I'm going to bring up with Nizu in a moment. Baseball? Namiri laughed softly. No, there are things you should know so you can avoid trouble. That was something minor, but bigger things might become an issue. They arrived at a wooden double door, and Namiri knocked. Come in, Nizu said joyfully. They did so, and Nizu was seated on a couch with a coffee table separating another couch. Please sit. Namiri sat across from Nizu, and Izuku looked at the couch dubiously. It might break. Izuku pointed at the seat. I doubt it. If it does, then I will get a new one to be able to handle your weight. Nizu smiled at the boy. Izuku shrugged and slowly lowered himself onto the couch. It groaned softly but held. Soft. What did you want to talk about? A few things, information for one. Aizawa informed me of your quirk. I wish to confirm what he had said. What can your quirk do? Nisa took a sip of tea and picked up a clipboard. Oh, all right. I can manipulate my cell at will. At first, I did it in groups. I got cut, and I commanded it to be sealed shut. Now, I can focus on smaller areas, like nerves. Izuku explained. Nizu was writing furiously as he listened carefully. Aizawa told me you changed your body. Can you give me a full list of what you've done? He flipped to another page and waited to write. Izuku did so from the bone and muscle to the nervous system and peripheral system. He explained what he did to change each body part. Namuri did go a little green, as Izuku explained, drinking the vital fluid of what he hunted for the iron. Then he explained the external organs like his mantis shrimp eyes. Those black dots are eyes. Namuri asked as she leaned in to get a closer look. The mantis shrimp are one of the most marvelous organisms I've ever seen. Wonderful choices in mimicking their eyes. Nisa praised him. Namuri noticed that Izuku never shied away from her proximity. She made a note to bring it up later. That's about it. Anything else? Izuku asked. Necessities will need to be procured for you, even if you decided to live out in the forest. We will set up a room for you and some things on the campus. When you attend classes at UA, you will need to be washed properly, and your clothes are kept neat and clean as possible. This afternoon, you will be taken to get some non-stolen clothes for your days off. Nizu wryly smiled at Izuku. That makes sense. Izuku agreed on the room for him. Next, something more serious. Your mother, Inko Midoriya. Nizu shifted in his seat. Izuku didn't react to his mother's name and waited for the principal to continue. 10 years ago, she reported you to have gone missing. There was a search for you, but as you can see, it didn't work. Izuku Midoriya was pronounced dead 8 years ago by Inko Midoriya. You have a tombstone even if you want to see it. Nizu. Namuri gave a sharp glare at her boss. Apologies, she is still in Japan and will be arrested sometime today. Nizu finish. What is the punishment for what she did to me? And what do we do if I'm dead on paper? It was a curiosity more than anything else. She will be going to jail for a good long time, Namuri said. As for you being dead, well, we will have to revive you. With lots of bureaucracy and time. Do you wish to keep your family name? Nizu smiled at the joke. No, I don't want Midoriya attached to me. Also, what's bureaucracy? He tilted his head in confusion. That's something I wanted to bring up, Namuri said. Bureaucracy? Izuku furrowed his brows. No, kid. She laughed again. There are a lot of things he is probably missing from being feral. Sorry, I couldn't find a better word. She grimaced in Izuku's direction. He shrugged. You're not wrong. Nisa hummed in thought. Yes, I can imagine. In the social aspect, he will have to learn bit by bit. We won't cram 10 years of social decorum into 1 month. It wouldn't work. Namuri turned to Izuku and asked, Did Asato give you the talk? Izuku furrowed his brows in confusion. We talked all the time, which one? Ah, yes, that would be prudent for him to know. Namuri, why don't you take him for a few hours and teach him about things like that, and whatever else you might think up? Nisa shoved the problem on her. She gave Nisa the stink eye and turned back, and smiled at Izuku. Let's go. It's learning time. For 3 hours, Namuri taught Izuku about birds and bees. To her disappointment, he wasn't very shy and asked questions with no embarrassment. It turned into a normal lesson as she explained everything on both sides, and Izuku listened attentively. The moral of the story, Izuku, girls are weird. Namuri finished. Namuri, don't teach him things you wouldn't teach a class. Nizu's voice came out of the speaker. I think I understand, he said slowly and with a furrowed brow. I think that's everything. Let's go out and get you some things. She turned off the screen. Go out. Like, no, you dummy. If a girl asks you that, you will be able to tell by the tone of voice. If not, just ask the person. Better safe than sorry. Keep that phrase in mind, for almost everything. Namuri laughed softly at a lost memory as she opened the door. Got it. So where are we going? Izuku got up and followed her. They walked down the hall to Nizu's office again. A big place with lots of stores in one place. They walked into Nizu's office, and he held out a card for her to grab without looking up. Izuku, do you have any thoughts on a family name for your paperwork? Nizu asked and set down his pen to look up. I can choose anything. If there is a family name already, then you would have to ask the family to allow you to use it, Nizu explained. Izuku shuffled his feet and thought about it. Namuri, can I use your family name? He didn't think it was too important anyway, right? Mine. Namiri's face grew just a touch pink. I suppose it's all right. She smiled at the boy. Wonderful. Izuku Kiyama. Nizu wrote the name down before anyone could object. Oh. If Aizawa asks, we use his name instead. Namiri laughed at the image of him finding out. Thanks, Namiri. I didn't want to be reminded of my mother every time I wrote my name. Also, I don't know how to write. He brought up. We'll get you some notebooks to practice. Namiri patted his shoulder, and they walked out. They made their way to the parking lot again, and Namiri picked up the keys for a small SUV. They got in, and Namiri got situated until she turned to Izuku, who sat there waiting. You have to put on your seatbelt when you get into a car, Namiri explained. Izuku did so and looked at the belt. I remember this faintly. He said to himself. She ruffled his hair to get him out of his memories. Maybe a haircut while we are out. Izuku held his hair so he could see it. I don't mind either way. Namiri put on music that Izuku was a fan of. He didn't like it when she put on music that the people were yelling more than singing. When she put on instrumental music, he loved it. Apparently, it was music that they put in the background movies and the like. We'll get you a music player for your den. She smiled at his look of joy when she said that. They stopped in a parking garage, and they began to walk to the noise of the mall. Izuku dulled his hearing to normal and his sense of smell as well. There was a subtle crack from his ears, and Namiri snapped her neck in his direction. What was that? It came from his head, which worried her. I switched my hearing and nose to normal. That was just my ear canal breaking and shifting to the right shape. He explained. Does it hurt? She looked around his ear to spot any differences. Izuku let Namiri move his ear and shift his head around. When I first got my quirk, it did. Now, I think I subconsciously turn off my pain inhibitors for that area, but know that something is breaking and shifting. It's not so bad. He shrugged. Well, all right. One thing I forgot to mention is that it's illegal to use your quirk in public. So don't use your quirk in public. She explained while holding eye contact. Izuku looked offended. He had grown used to using his quirk for the littlest things. I thought I'll try. He grumbled. It'll be fine, don't pout. She ruffled his hair as they just arrived at the mall's entrance. They went from store to store as they bought all types of clothes. Formal, casual, and formal casual. Izuku thought it was a bit much, but Namiri looked like she was having fun. She taught him how to use a debit card and what places would have what. It was a nice experience and all. Now with what they planned to get, and now Namiri was showing Izuku one of the best things in the world. So what it's like frozen milk, but it's soft. All Might flavor, what's that? I've seen that everywhere. Is it a fruit? He turned and ignored the odd look the man behind the counter was giving him and to a laughing Namiri. No. Just get one of the normal ones, and I'll explain it when we sit down. She wiped a tear from her face and waved his concerns away. All right, I'll get strawberry. I think I like that one. He pointed at the pink tub. They got their ice cream cones and sat on a concrete bench. Namiri waited for him to take his first taste. Izuku looked at it and then bit half of it off. Luckily, Izuku had long ago strengthened his teeth with layers, but the cold was another story. It's good. Really creamy, and why are you looking at me like that? Namiri was giving Izuku a pitying look. Eating too much ice cream will make your head hurt for a bit. It's too much cold ingested or something. She smiled softly at him. I don't. Biting cold hit the top of Izuku's mouth and traveled up his head. Izuku turned off his senses and turned to Namiri. It would have been nice to know ahead of time. He grumbled. She laughed at his pain and patted his back. It's an experience to have at least once. You did something, didn't you, little cheater? Maybe. He licked the ice cream like she did and turned his senses back on. It was much more enjoyable like that. They finished their frozen treat, and they headed to a hair salon for Izuku. He got seated right away. Namiri and the hairstylists began to touch his hair and talk between themselves. Izuku just sat there trying to keep up with their conversation. For all his enhanced body, he didn't understand anything they said. Is this what you meant by girls are weird earlier? Izuku asked when there was a break in the conversation. The hairstylist gave him a wry smirk, and Namiri looked betrayed at him. Don't worry, sweetie. We are just trying to make your hair look good, the stylist said. Namiri sat in a chair behind the two, and the stylist started. They started by washing his hair thoroughly. Almost an hour later, Izuku walked out with his hair short on top and buzzed on the sides. He kept on feeling the sides in wonder. He tried to cut his hair once. It didn't look good by his reflection in the pond. Instead, He made it so his hair grew slowly. They got into the car, and they headed back to UA. Namuri put on some instrumental music, and the drive was peaceful. When they arrived, Namuri helped Izuku carry his new stuff to his room in the building. Even though he could lift a car with his body, she wanted to help. She guided him to a part of the building where Izuku could see his woods outside through a window. There should be a key inside for you to unlock the door in the future. She opened the door, and they stepped inside. There was a desk in the corner with a computer, a bed in the other corner with empty shelves at the foot of it. Next to the bed was a nightstand and a lamp and clock on it. 2 other doors lead to a closet and a bathroom with a shower. In the closet was a dresser and clothes were already hung there. Your uniform for classes, Namuri said behind Izuku. Izuku began to put his things away. They were messy, but he had a system he liked. Namuri tried to help him, but he batted her away. She giggled and left him be. He set his prized artifact on the empty shelves, his music player. Namuri showed him how to use his new phone and where to go for his music. She gave him some guidelines about the internet and not to trust everything he sees on it. Then she had to explain what the internet was, which took some time. Once done, Izuku stretched like a cat. Is there a library here? Izuku asked Namuri. There is. Let me show you. She handed him his dorm key, and Izuku set it on his other forearm, and it sunk into his flesh. Is that safe? My immune system is probably one of the best things I have. I can tell my cells to devour any foreign things in my body for fuel. Parasites tried to get survive in me, but they didn't last long. Izuku waved her concern away. Izuku and Namuri walked the halls of UA and headed to the library. He observed everything they came across. Namuri answered any questions he had about what he saw. It was all very interesting to Izuku, who had little to no knowledge of UA other than it was a school, and it trained people to be heroes. He learned that they taught more than just heroics. She explained about the support course and the business course. He quickly lost interest in both, but paid attention anyway. They arrived at a double-glass door and walked inside. Namuri got him started on the terminal where he could find what he was looking for by typing in a subject. His typing skills were much better than his writing skills. Once he sat down, he split his fingers a few times and typed what he wanted to read. Neurobiology? Namuri read what he typed in the search bar. An experiment I thought up with my quirk. He said cryptically, just be careful. I'm going to go and get some work done. I put my number on your phone in case you need to contact me. She ruffled his short hair and made to leave. He found a corner table with a window with a view of his woods. He pulled out the chair to sit and stared at it. It wouldn't hold his weight. So, with a grumble, he scoured around until he found a metal chair. He picked it up and set it at his table. Then he delved into reading about how brains function and which parts controlled what. He only stopped reading when his stomach rumbled. He looked out and saw it was getting dark, almost sunset. He got up and grabbed the books he was reading when he didn't know where to put them. Usually with Asato, he set them on the counter for the next day. But now he has a room with light. He followed the instructions for checking out the books and left with a smile. After setting the reading material in his room, he went out for a hunt. Time flew as the day for his classes at UA got closer. Izuku practiced his writing skills, but they could only improve so much in a month. He got to meet most of the UA faculty as time passed. Present Mike was freaked out by his quirk, but he was friendly anyway to Izuku. Aizawa was his usual grumpy self and was left alone for the most part, unless Namuri or Present Mike roped him into their conversation. Cementos was calm and soft-spoken with his rumbling voice. Hound Dog got more comfortable around Izuku, but never completely relaxed in his presence. The skinny blonde man who smelled of old blood was named Toshinori Yagi. He was a new teacher at UA, but he never said for what. Izuku didn't fully trust him. Ectoplasm kept mostly to himself, but answered anything he was asked. Snipe was the most friendly with Izuku. The gunslinger taught Izuku about firearms and even let him shoot a few. Izuku didn't like it much, but Snipe was friendly. Snipe did spark an idea for his quirk. He made his usual bone spear that protruded out of the top of his wrist and made it rise out of his flesh and detach. While it was too short for an effective ranged weapon, he could make it work. He practiced in the woods until he got the right size. Now, he can hit his target most of the time. The best part was that his spears were able to be assimilated back into his body. That was a neat discovery. Now he practiced by using his bone javelin to hunt. His strength caused most of his throws to impale his targets completely. But as he learned from Present Mike, too much is better than not enough. Finally, the morning came for his first day of school in over 10 years. Izuku showered properly with scentless soap and put on his uniform. His pants were cut short to give him access to his legs. He put on his blazer, as Namiri called it, a weird name, and then he grabbed his tie. He stared at it, and then put it back. No one taught him how to wear a tie. He made his way to 1A and observed all the new students looking around with amazement in their eyes. Many different quirks were visible as Izuku walked the halls. Izuku could tell when they were animal-based because they turned to Izuku and paled slightly while looking away immediately. Izuku shrugged and made his way to the big door and slid it open. He could already smell some people inside. Izuku looked around at his classmates, and they did the same to him. Some were chatting between themselves, and others sat quietly. He saw a few interesting people immediately. A blonde that spiked his memory. A tall boy with a mask on his face and silver hair. And then the pink girl Izuku helped with the exam. She waved at him with a smile, and he returned the gesture. But first, he wanted to speak with the tall boy. Izuku approached him with a curious head tilt. The other sprouted an extra eye out of his arm and a mouth. Izuku smiled and extended a tendril with an eye at the end of it as well. We have similar quirks. I am Mizo Shoji. Nice to meet you. The mouth at the end of his hand spoke, and Izuku could see the crinkle in his eyes that showed a smile. I'm Izuku. Nice to meet you too. What else can you do? Izuku beamed at Shoji. Morph my arms and different organs. Shoji shifted his other arm to a mouth, a large ear, and more eyes. That's neat. I can do the same, but with my whole body. Can you do animal parts? Izuku asked. Shoji hummed in thought. I never tried non-human body parts. I'll have to try sometime. I recommend the mantis shrimp's eyes. They're great. Do you think we might be related somehow? Izuku got close to one of the arms and examined it from every angle, which caused Shoji some discomfort. Not that Izuku noticed. I do not think so. What is your full name? Shoji retracted his extra organs, and Izuku backed off. Midoriya, but I changed it recently to Kiyama. The name tasted bad in Izuku's mouth. Izuku, you died. The blonde was staring at Izuku with a pale face. The class that was present got quiet at the statement. Izuku turned to him and observed him for a moment. You're familiar. Izuku furrowed his brow and remembered. Kaken, how have you been? How has Annie been? Izuku threw his arms out like he was going to hug the shocked blonde. Auntie was arrested a few weeks ago. Your mother said you were dead. What? Why? Kaken looked extremely confused and didn't know where to start. What the hell, Izuku? It hasn't even been an hour. Shinso said from the open door. Shinso, I got a phone. I don't know how to use it very well, but give me your number. Izuku all but demanded. He stopped and peeked his head out. The door. Aizawa, what are you doing? Izuku smelled his scent a while ago, but has been ever so slowly getting stronger. The sleeping bag got up and gave out a long-suffering sigh. To make some things clearer, Izuku is a odd case. He can talk about it if he doesn't mind. I don't mind. Izuku shrugged. It started when Aizawa cut him off with a glare. Later, he turned back to the very confused class. I am your homeroom teacher. Put these on and meet me at the field. Don't be late. And he walked off. Everyone was quiet for a moment, but Izuku broke the silence. Well, come on. He gets grumpy when he is made to wait. Izuku grabbed a gym uniform, and Shinso followed his lead without a second thought. How have you been? Izuku asked Shinso as they walked. Pretty good. Mom was angry at me for not telling her about you. Why? Because she thought she could have helped you somehow with something or another. I tried to explain to her that you were fine, but she was still upset. You did help me. I stole some shorts from you once. Izuku smiled at his friend. I knew you took them. Shinso slapped Izuku's arm and then held his hand in pain. Curse, you and your weird body. They changed into their clothes as the rest of the boys funneled into the locker room. They were mostly quiet while shooting glances at Izuku. It was clear that they were all curious about his story, Kaken most of all. Class 1A lined up in front of a waiting Aizawa. Time is precious, don't waste it. You all will be doing a quirk assessment, so I can gauge where everyone is. But this is not a fun activity. Do your best, or you will be removed from this course. Understood? Aizawa stared sternly at all of them. They gave a discordant wave of confirmation. Izuku, since you passed the exam in the first place, why don't you start us off? Throw this as far as you can without leaving the circle. Use your quirk. He tossed a ball at him. Izuku caught the baseball and examined it. He walked into the circle and glanced back to his class. Izuku frowned when he saw two of his classmates. A girl with green hair was pale and looking down. A boy with a bird head was the same, but his feathers were standing at the back of his head. He remembered what he said to Hound Dog and stepped back to his class. They watched him curiously. Aizawa didn't say anything. "I don't intend to hurt any of you," Izuku said loudly. "Threats are unbecoming of a hero." A tall blue-haired boy with glasses chopped his arm furiously. It wasn't a threat, it was for their benefit. Izuku pointed at the boy and girl who relaxed some. The girl gave him a nod of appreciation. The boy did the same, and a small shadow appeared on his shoulder. Something to do with animal instincts. Hound Dog had the same problem. Izuku shrugged and went back to the circle. He felt the ball in his hand and then shifted his arm. The cracking of bone and tearing of flesh caused gasps of horror and one gag. His arm elongated with muscles visible, and his hand became hardened with metallic bone exposed at his knuckles. He lifted his leg in a pitches pose and launched the ball. There was a small sonic boom, and the ball disappeared into the sky. Izuku shielded his eyes from the sun and watched it fly. "How are we going to measure that?" Izuku asked. He turned and saw Aizawa holding up a phone with 2086.2 meters on it. "Oh, that's fancy." Izuku shifted his arm back, and some of the class watched with disturbed fascination. Aizawa called someone next, and Izuku stepped next to Shinso, who was nervous. "My quirk isn't going to work here," he whispered to Izuku. "Why not?" Izuku furrowed his brow at his friend. "Because I can't tell the ball to go." He said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "No, use it on people, you dummy." "On me, I don't mind." Izuku was put under Shinso's quirk many times while they hung out in the woods before. He never minded because it was his friend. "Are you sure?" he asked apprehensively. "Yep. You don't have to use your quirk on me if you don't want to. Just act like you are, and I'll follow your orders like I was under your control." He smiled reassuringly at his friend. Shinso gave him a grateful smile. "Thank you, Izuku." Shinso Hitoshi, Aizawa called him next, and Shinso walked into the circle. "Izuku?" He smiled at his friend. "Yes?" Izuku smiled back. "Throw this ball with your quirk." Shinso's quirk activated, and Izuku walked forward while his arm shifted again. He took the ball and threw it. Oh no! Izuku threw the ball in the direction he was facing. With the order completed, the quirk faded. "You didn't specify which direction." "I didn't specify which direction." Shinso covered his eyes. "Sir, is that allowed?" The same boy from before spoke up. "He used his quirk, why wouldn't it be?" Aizawa drawled out. "He had someone else do it for him." The boy argued. "What were my directions for the throw?" Aizawa was now glaring at the stiff teen. The boy shut his mouth with a snap and stepped back in line with the rest. The rest of the throws went by without any issues. They moved on to other exercises that Izuku had fun in all of them, even when Aizawa glared at him for smiling too much. Shinso asked Izuku for help every once in a while, and Izuku helped even when the quirk didn't activate. Shinso did hitch a ride on Izuku's back for the long-distance run. Izuku took some revenge by strapping him to his back with tendrils. It was a bumpy ride. Izuku got to learn his classmates' names as Aizawa called them up one at a time for some exercises. Mina Ashido was the name of the girl that he helped during the exam, and she smiled at him whenever they met eyes. She seemed fun by his estimation. Kaken kept glancing at Izuku whenever he could. The feral boy smiled at him, but Kaken just looked confused. They finished the exercises Aizawa gave them and put up a display with their ranking. Izuku sat on top and Shinso was in 5th place. The bottom was a girl that was invisible to all. Izuku could almost see her because of the disturbed air, but it was vague at best. He could smell her just fine, though. She was frustrated at being in last place. "You can see how you did. Start working in the areas you were lacking, or you will be removed from this course for someone who puts in the effort. You are all dismissed for the day." Aizawa made to leave. Izuku took his place. "So, who wants to hear my story?" It would be easier to do it all at once than to explain it a bunch of times. Everyone stayed where they were and waited for the odd boy to start talking. Aizawa shook his head and kept walking. "Alrighty then. Kaken, your aunt, my mother took me to the doctor because my quirk hadn't appeared yet. The doctor said I was quirkless, and a few days later she drove me far and then dropped me off in the middle of the woods to die." There were horrified gasps from all of the class. "Nonsense. She wouldn't have done that." Kaken yelled at Izuku. "He's not lying. I can use my quirk to tell lies." Jiru, Izuku learned, was covering her mouth in horror. "What happened after?" Mina asked with tears in her black, golden eyes. I survived. It was hard for the first couple of years. Found a freshwater spring, some fish, and a cave. Managed to make a fire after half a yearish. All was going all right until a wolf found me as prey. I dodged and weaved as it chases me, and we fell off a cliff, where the spring and my cave were. I broke my leg, and the wolf got hurt worse. They mangled my arm, and I killed it. I was sure I was dead from injuries I'd taken, but I woke up a while later all right. My quirk appeared. I can manipulate my cells in any shape I want to, for example, my legs and feet. It hurt at first, but it's easier now. Hunting became much easier then. Izuku shifted his hands into claws and scissors them. Anyways, I wanted to do more with my quirk and left downstream to look for a library. Found one and visited it for a while as I stayed in the nearby woods. Stole some clothes, met Shinso, and then came here for the hero exam. Now, I'm a ward of UA when the teachers found out about my situation. He finished his life story so far. Any questions? On a scale of 1 to 10, how feral are you? Shinso raised his hand. I don't know, Shinso. You should know better than me. He threw his hands up. How many clothes did you steal from me? Shinso asked with a smile. I'm going to steal more now. He narrowed his eyes at his friend. The joking questions from Shinso relaxed some of the class, but there were some wiping tears from their eyes at Izuku's story. Kaken was dazed as he looked at Izuku after his retelling. What happened to your mother? Mina asked after wiping some tears that cropped up. Some of the others nodded at her question, also wanting to know. Nizu, that's the principal, he likes some big rat bear thing. Anyways, he said she was arrested the day after I moved in. So that was nice of him. Izuku was grateful for Nizu's quick actions against her. And your father? Uraraka asked. Never met him. Kaken, did you ever hear anything about him? He turned to old acquainted. The blonde shook himself and focused on the question. Auntie. He paused. Inko only said he moved to America. She never spoke about him again. Oh well. Izuku shrugged. That's the main thing about me, so you all know and don't freak out later if you find out. Ask me anything, I don't mind. Todoroki left soon after he finished speaking, disturbed at what he had learned about his classmate. His outward expression never changed nonetheless. Others began to leave as well. The subject on their mind was Izuku. Kaken left with a contemplative look in his eye. He needed to get home and tell his parents about Izuku. Ever since Izuku disappeared and was then pronounced dead, Inko Midoriya was like a second mother to him. She cared for him and took care of him when his mother was at work or went out with his father. Inko was arrested right in front of him and his mother as they were out eating at a cafe. It was a small, early celebration for UA. Police and two heroes walked up to Inko as they chatted and put her in handcuffs. His mother tried to protest at what was happening, but all she was told was that Inko Midoriya was under arrest. The few who stayed were Mina, Shinso, Jairu, and Shoji. Jairu spoke first with a question. So is everything new for you? A lot is. I remember some from before, but it's mostly foggy. Izuku nodded with a smile. I remember I had to explain what spices were to you. Shinso smirked at him. How did you two meet? Mina asked. He was running away from some bullies and came into my territory. I scared them away, and then Shinso came back with some food as thanks. Izuku smiled at the memory. Bullies, because of your quirk? Mina wrinkled her nose at the word. Yeah, but Izuku stopped them from coming back. He was the reason for the rumor of the beast of the woods. Shinso snickered. That's you. I've heard about that rumor from my school. Jairu looked at Izuku in surprise. Is that why people came into the woods? Izuku furrowed his brow. I saw a few kids come in and look around and left after they heard a badger in the brush. I found it weird that they did, and then more people looked around. You're not that scary. I mean, the claws looked menacing, but you're... Mina gestured to all of him. None threatening looking, I guess. Izuku, you said that you can change your whole body. To what extent? Shoji asked. Shinso giggled like a schoolboy. No. You have to wait to see that. I think I peed a little when I first saw Izuku. Why? I don't mind. Izuku shrugged. Nope, I want everyone's faces when you shift into your hunter form, or whatever. Shinso shot down the looks of anticipation on their faces. I saw some of what I think you're talking about. During the exam, a block of stone pinned my leg, and I saw you running towards me. The dust made it hard to see, but you looked so cool. Thanks, by the way, for getting me out of there. Mina smiled at Izuku. You guys want to get out of here and grab something to eat? Jairu proposed to everyone. Yes. I'll go catch something for all of us. Izuku's eyes gleamed. No, you feral animal. She means the food we can eat at a table. Shinso slapped his arm, which caused him to hiss in pain. Weird body. Mina got curious and poked his bicep, where Shinso slapped him. She felt muscles, but they were so compact that it felt almost solid. Whoa. She tried to squeeze the muscle for them to shift, but was interrupted by a cough. Jairu was giving her a smile with an eyebrow raised. As much as I want to see you grope our classmate, let's go get something to eat. Mina turned to Izuku and backed away with a blush. It wasn't like that. His muscles are like a stone. Izuku shrugged, nonplussed about the situation. Shinso smirked as he passed him. Shoji chucked and made to follow. I feel like I missed something, Izuku said to himself. Jairu snorted and waved for him to follow them to get food. I'll have to ask Namiri about it, and for money. The four changed into their school uniforms and grouped up to head out. Izuku was excited to go with his new friends, but first, before I can go, I need to tell Nizu. All right, let's go, Mina said, leading the way. Where are we going? She stopped and turned to Izuku. Izuku smiled and led them up the stairs and to the principal's office. He knocked and waited. Namiri taught him to do that. The door opened and Izuku strolled in. Hey, Nizu. I'm going out with these guys to eat something. Also, I don't have money. Of course, keep your phone on yourself in case you need to contact us in here. He handed Izuku a card. Namiri said she taught you how to use it, correct? Izuku nodded. It's not limitless, so buy only what you require. Truthfully, it was a credit card with an obscene amount of credit, but Izuku didn't need to know that. Sometime in the future, we'll speak about managing your finances. For now, go enjoy yourselves. He smiled at the feral boy. Izuku bounded out of the office and met up with his classmates. They walked out the gate and made their way to the streets. Izuku hadn't gone out since Namiri took him out to get necessities for himself. He had spent time with her as she taught him some basic stuff, but he was mainly isolated in the walls of UA. He had found no need to leave. After all, he had all he needed. Food, a place to sleep, and an extensive library. As they began to walk, Shoji spoke. Izuku, may I ask what you do in your free time? Library probably, Shinso smirked. Yep, the library at UA is pretty big. I like to read. Izuku said happily. Oh, like what? Romance novels? Mina teased. Are there hidden, dirty magazines somewhere in there? The library is pretty clean and there aren't many magazines. But no, I research the anatomy and biology of different things. Right now, I was reading about neurobiology. The clueless boy shot down Mina's teasing with logic. Mina pouted slightly, and Shinso narrowed his eyes slightly at his response. All that for your quirk? Jairu asked with a raised eyebrow at the pink girl. Yeah, at first I could do basic stuff with my quirk like closing cuts or making claws. But for more detailed stuff I needed to know what I was doing. My legs were. First, I hunted another wolf and learned how their legs worked. Now, I can do much more. He explained. What more can you do? Other than your arms and shifting into whatever Shinso teased about. Shoji was interested in what he could learn from the feral boy with a more advanced version of his quirk. I can make permanent changes to my body. Like my legs, I don't focus on keeping them like this. That's how they are now unless I change them. He went on to list what he changed in his body. The three new friends were both impressed and a bit horrified at what he had done. I also fixed my ribs. I can put a hardened mesh between the ribs for extra protection. I also need to think about the heat pit snakes have. Hagakure made me think of that. Izuku said the last part more to himself. That's incredible. You did all that by yourself? Shoji complimented. It's serious hardcore. Jairu agreed, and Mina nodded emphatically. Asato helped me find what I needed to read for the information, but yep. It took a while though. Too much changing at the same time can empty my fuel. Asato? Mina asked. She is the librarian that worked or owned the library near my old den. She was very nice. I want to go visit sometime. Izuku smiled at the memory older librarian. Meanwhile, Katsuki opened the door to his home. His mother was at the desk in the living room working on a new clothes design. How was your first day, brat? She didn't look at him as she greeted her hard-headed son. Mom. Katsuki said softly. Mitsuki immediately knew something was wrong when Katsuki didn't greet her with the same brash attitude he had with everyone. She dropped what she was doing and whipped around to Katsuki. What's going on? She asked worriedly as she stood. He opened his mouth a few times and then spoke. Izuku is alive and at UA. Inko. Wait, hold on. Izuku? You saw him? Her eyes began to water at the thought of her nephew. She pulled Katsuki to the sofa and sat down so he could explain. Start from the beginning, please. So Katsuki did. He explained how he saw Izuku in his classroom and how odd he was. Then he began to talk about his story. He said Auntie Inko abandoned him in the woods when the doctor said he was quirkless. Mitsuki reeled back as if she were struck at her closest friend, almost sister, doing such a thing. She wouldn't. Her voice wobbled. Katsuki nodded and wiped a tear from his eye. A girl could tell he was telling the truth. Inko left him to die in the woods alone. Mitsuki sobbed at his statement. Katsuki would never lie, and never about something so serious. And Izuku? Did people find him? He was all right. She had to know about Izuku. He shook his head. He said he lived in the woods for years. It was only a month ago when he took the exam and teachers asked him about the information missing on the application. He lived alone in the woods hunting and survived. Yue made him a ward of the school, and he lives there now. Mitsuki sobbed only harder at the thought of the child, her nephew, living in the woods alone like that. She kept crying until she could speak again. Did he look all right? He looked happy. He said he hunted a lot, and he was strong. His quirk was freaky. He can change his body. He even had a friend, I think. Mitsuki pulled Katsuki into a hug. She had lost a sister, and Katsuki had lost his aunt. He didn't say anything, but he held tightly onto her and cried silently with her. Izuku? Shinso spoke furrowed brow, but was trying to contain a smile. Yeah? The feral boy opened the sandwich and sniffed it as he checked every layer of the meal. He then picked it up and bit into it. He made a sound of appreciation for the taste. Mina had pasta, Jairu a soup, Shoji some fried fish, and Shinso a stir-fry. He paused. Do you know how to use utensils? Everyone at the table froze and turned to Izuku. Oh yeah, of course I do. I forgot to mention I brought my. He paused and looked at the chopsticks in their hands. Eating sticks with me when was dropped off at the woods. He said sarcastically. He giggled. Namiri explained sarcasm to me. Mina inhaled what she had in her mouth and began to choke. Shinso began to wheeze in laughter. Jairu bit her lip as she both tried to help Mina not die and hold in her laughter. Shoji sat stock still as he tried to process what Izuku just said and then began to chuckle with mirth. Once Mina got the food down her throat, she howled in laughter. Eating sticks. The UA students got some looks of annoyance, but some shook their heads at the youths. Izuku enjoyed their mirth as he bit into his tasty sandwich. They finished their laughing and looked at Izuku eating with a smile aimed at them. To be fair, I never needed to learn. He shrugged. You know you'll have to learn someday. Shinso wiped a tear from his eye. I don't know. This sandwich is pretty good. I think I'll manage without. He did glance at their food, and it did smell good. Did you learn anything fun while in the woods? Jairu asked. I taught myself how to swim. That was fun. It's harder now with my weight. Climbing trees are really fun, especially jumping from one to another. Hunting is always nice, although I wish there were more animals to hunt. Oh, that tree hopping does sound fun, Mina said. They kept chatting as they ate their meals. They talked about their other classmates and then the heroes that were supposed to teach them. Izuku thoroughly enjoyed his time with his new friends. When it came to splitting off and heading to their homes, they exchanged phone numbers. The three new friends headed to the train station, and Shinso and Izuku were left. Want to head back now? Shinso asked his friend. He stayed behind for the express purpose to make sure Izuku didn't get lost and ended up somewhere he didn't want to go. All right, let's go. Izuku began to walk. He was grabbed by the arm and turned in the right direction. MHH, are you sure? I thought it was this way. How can you have an impeccable sense of direction in the woods and not in the streets where everything is labeled? Shinso asked in disbelief. Izuku made an I don't know sound and kept walking with Shinso. When we get back, do you want to see my new den? Sure, I've got time. He slipped his phone out of his pocket and sent a message to his mother. Nice there? The UA Woods? It's all right. Smaller than the one near your house. He shrugged. They arrived back at UA, and Izuku first brought Shinso to his room to change quickly. He produced the key from his arm and struggled a bit before getting the key in the lock. Shinso didn't react to the key sliding out of his skin like a parasite. This is nice. The bed is soft too. He looked around as Izuku changed out of his uniform without an ounce of shame. All right, let's go. Izuku turned to the nearest door to his room and walked out. He picked up Shinso with tendrils and ignored his complaints. His legs changed, and they were off. This time he made sure Shinso was suspended in the air instead of strapped to his back for a smoother ride. Halfway into the woods, He slowed down and set his friend down so they could walk. He stumbled a bit, but was used to Izuku's speed. The first thing they saw was the large pond in front of the large tree. This is nice, very relaxing. That your den? He pointed at the rounded wood planks with his signature on them. Yep. Want to see inside? He bounded over to the hole in the ground. Shinso shrugged, why not? He peered into the opening and saw a thick root. He grabbed it and swung down. It was slightly larger than the room in the building. One side had a variety of skulls, and a corner was a pile of pelts with planks under them for support. This is comfortable. He sat on the furs to try it out. It was ridged, but gave some under his weight. Izuku returned from his quick hunt with 2 hares. Shinso crawled out and saw his friend blowing at a fire. The 2 small carcasses gave away why the fire. Snack? Izuku held up 1 hare by the ears. Never tried rabbit or whatever that is. Sure, I'll take a leg. Shinso sat down on a log. Can I ask you about Kaken? Sure, I don't mind, but I barely remember anything anyways. He skinned the animals and set the pelt to dry. He took 1 head and popped it into his mouth raw. Shinso didn't even bat an eye. Were you too close? I think so. I remember his mother was like an aunt to me, and by how he was talking about my mother, it was the same for him. I think they were close friends before we were born. He felt a slight flare of anger at his mother, but it died quickly. You going to visit them? Izuku slowly turned the skewed animals. If they ask, then sure. Why are you so curious? It's like a story about old friends reuniting after something tragic happened. He shrugged and took the leg of the hare that was proffered. He bit into the hot meat. Tender, I like this. Needs seasoning though. You always say that. He rolled his eyes and took a bit out of the other leg, bone and all. They chatted for a bit longer until Izuku's arm vibrated and beeped. He extracted it and pressed the button. Izuku, once you have some time, please come up to my office. Nizu asked of him. Sure, I'll be there soon. The light on the device turned off, and it sunk back into his skin. It's getting late anyway. Give me a ride back? Shinso stood and dusted his pants. Izuku put out the fire and carried his friend. They split off, and Izuku walked upstairs to Nizu's office. He could smell someone new with Nizu. He paused and knocked. Nizu called him in, and Izuku strolled in. The stranger was plain-looking with a white button-up shirt and black pants. Just on time. Izuku, this is Detective Tsukauchi. Detective, this is formerly Izuku Midoriya, now Izuku Kiyama. Please sit. Nizu introduced the 2. Izuku scanned the man up and down before sitting. What did you need? Oh, was it the card? Here. He held the credit card out to Nizu that slid out of his hand. No, you keep that with you in case you need to purchase something. No, this is about the trial for your mother. It would be prudent to have Tsukauchi take your statement about what had happened for the court hearing. Nizu explained. Izuku nodded along. I understood a third of that. What's a trial and court hearing? Also, why does Tsukauchi need to take my statement? Nizu chuckled a bit and went on to explain what both terms were. As for why the good detective, because of his quirk, truth detector. Anything you say, he will be able to tell if you are lying or not. This will be incredibly useful for the trial if a statement taken by the detective is given to the judge. While most likely unnecessary with the proof given, better safe than sorry. That makes sense, so what now? Izuku looked between the 2. Wait, Nizu, I don't intend to harm you in any way. I forgot about that. Tsukauchi raised an eyebrow at the phrase, and then looked to Nizu, whose shoulders dipped slightly. Thank you, Izuku. That does indeed help with your presence. Now, on to the matter at hand. The detective will ask you questions, and you will answer them to the best of your abilities. He waved at the detective to begin. For the next hour, Izuku was asked about everything that had happened since Inko Midoriya left him in the woods. He explained everything without hesitation. From the rag she put on his face to make him fall asleep to the time he killed his first deer. They focused a lot on his last interaction with his mother, but Izuku had no problem remembering what she had said to him. Then they got to more recent events. When you reached the city, why didn't you tell someone about your situation? Tsukauchi asked. I didn't need to. I had food, a den, and the library was right there. He shrugged. And the librarian, Asato, she never said anything? Last time we spoke she thought I was homeless, but since I was well fed and stuff, she let it be. And Hitoshi Shinso, he never offered help? Help with what? Izuku tilted his head. You living in the woods. He came to talk and hang out a lot. That was nice. His mother grounded him because he thought I wanted to be kept a secret, but I never told him that. He helped with some clothes I stole from him. Does that count? Nizu hid a smile by drinking some tea. Sukachi chucked slightly. We'll say he did. From there you worked on taking the UA exam. Anything of note happened then? Nope. I took the exam. Nizu called me over for some questions, and now I'm here. Thank you, Izuku, for your forthrightness. Not once did my quirk go off during your statement. He smiled at the feral boy. The trial is set for tomorrow, correct? Nizu asked the detective. Correct. They said it after school lets out, Sukachi confirmed. The trial for my mother is tomorrow. Why did it take so long? Izuku asked. Bureaucracy. There's some paperwork that needs to be done before a trial began, and some people are dreadfully slow at it. Nizu gave out an exasperated sigh. So, tomorrow after class we will go to the trial for my mother? That is if you do not wish to participate in it. Nizu proposed. It's fine, I'll go. Very well, that was all for today. Nizu smiled. All right, I'll see you later then. Bye, Sukachi. He waved at the two and left the office. Sukachi watched him go and then turned to Nizu. What was that earlier about him not harming you? I believe young Izuku developed an aura of a predator of the highest degree. Both Hound Dog and I were put under his presence, and it felt like a pair of jaws ready to clamp onto my neck in a moment. There were 2 students with animal quirks in his class that had the same issue until Izuku stated to them he meant no harm to them. Aizawa reported they released tension in their bodies as if they were ready to run to safety. Neither could even look at him without shaking. Quite marvelous, don't you think? Nizu smiled and took a sip of his now-cooled tea. Is it pheromones or something? Sukachi asked. No, not as far as I could tell. It's all his presence that causes it. Izuku walked through the halls back to the woods. His feet claws tapped on the linoleum of the floor. He was in deep thought about the day to come. He wasn't sure what to feel at the thought of seeing his mother again. He felt angry at the thought of her, but also saddened at what she had done to him. He changed course and headed to his room instead. He wants to do some research with the books he had stored away, and maybe work on his handwriting skills. They still were atrocious. Izuku woke before the sun was visible in the sky. He sat up and felt a pain in his back and noticed he fell asleep on his desk. He got up from the chair and made his back give various cracks and pops as his spine straightened out. With a sigh of relief, he went out the door and to the woods for breakfast. After cleaning up and showering, he changed into his uniform. He headed to the doors marked 1A as students began to stream into the buildings. He wasn't the first one there as he walked in. A boy with split hair colors sat in his seat reading a book. He looked up and nodded in greeting. Izuku waved and turned to find out where he sat. He had no clue. With pursed lips and turned to the smell of the sleeping man under the teacher's desk. He walked silently to his desk and leaned over it to be able to see his homeroom teacher. Izuku's hair fell up, and he tried to figure out a way to wake the grumpy teacher. He didn't have to as Aizawa's closed eye opened partly. What do you want, feral brat? He softly said. Izuku whispered in return. He had learned that was the best way to wake the hero. Where do I sit? 3rd seat back, next to the windows. He snuggled deeper in his sleeping bag when he finished. Izuku leaned back and met eyes with Todoroki, who was watching him curiously. He gave him a smile that showed all his teeth and moved to his seat. It was reinforced. He sat down, and it didn't even make a noise. He pulled out his tablet given to him by Nizu for taking notes until his handwriting had improved. A few minutes passed, and more classmates walked through the door. Mina gave him a wave and smile as she walked through the door. Izuku returned the gesture, and she approached him to chat. How'd you sleep? Mina started. My back hurt when I woke. I think it was because I fell asleep at my desk. Does that happen? She giggled a bit. Yep. If you sleep in a weird position, it can hurt your back. You never had that problem before. Izuku shook his head. I think when I first slept in my first cave it did. How many places did you sleep in? Like how many caves? Mina asked. 3 places, the cave near where I first woke up, the den I stole from some badgers by Shinso's house, and now my new den here. He pointed out the window to the woods. What did you wait for the badgers to leave and then steal it? Mina laughed. No, I ate them. He said it as it was obvious. She snorted at that. What did they taste like? They are in the middle for taste. Deer are usually the best for quantity and quality. Birds are the worst because of the feathers. That makes sense. Mina nodded. Want to try some? Izuku pulled out a bag of cooked badger meat he cooked up that morning. Mina raised an eyebrow and smiled. You just have that in your pocket? In case I get hungry. He shrugged. What is this? Shinso approached from behind Mina and took a piece of cooked meat. He sniffed it. Badger? Izuku nodded, and Shinso took a bite. Needs seasoning. Mina went with the flow and took a piece. That was tasty. You sure know how to get to a woman's heart, huh? She tried to tease. Through the third and fourth rib, right? Shinso snorted loudly behind Izuku, and Mina burst out laughing. Shinso patted his shoulder. Never changed, Izuku. Izuku was thoroughly confused at what was happening. Don't worry about it, Izuku. Mina waved his confusion away. I don't think your usual methods will work on him. Jairu and Shoji joined them. I've noticed, Mina grumbled. Excuse me? But you don't appear to be wearing your tie? Where is it? The tall blue-haired boy approached Izuku and chopped his arm down. Oh right. Here it is. He pulled it out of his pocket next to the bag of snacks. Why are you not wearing it? It is required by the student handbook. I never got a student handbook. Izuku shrugged. Also, I don't know how to wear one. Like the knot thing. That gave Ida pause. In a quieter voice he said. I see, my apologies. Don't worry, Izuku. I'll teach you. Mina was eager to jump on the opportunity. Izuku, I like that. Thanks, Mina. She took Shinso's tie off his neck before he could react. Mina, why did you take mine? Use yours. She explained why she couldn't by unclipping hers and putting it on Shinso's collar. Jairu snorted at the display. All right, copy me. Izuku stood and followed the pink girl's movements. After a few failed tries, he finally got it and had a straight tie. She tightened it on his collar and smiled. Thanks, Mina. Izuku beamed. I remember watching the YouTube video until I remembered it step by step. She loosened the tie and gave it back to Shinso. YouTube? Izuku asked. Mina gasped. You poor boy. Kaken walked through the doors at that moment and focused on his old friend. He walked up to him apprehensively. Izuku? Kaken, nice to see you again. He beamed to his old friend. Can we talk at lunch? He asked. Izuku shrugged. Sure, I don't mind. To your seats. Aizawa rose from his position under the desk. Good, just to get this out of the way. Does everyone know about Izuku's? He waved his hand at the feral boy. Situation. Everyone nodded. Good, now you know if he does something weird or whatever. No new announcement for today. Your next class will start in a moment. Cementos walked through the door at that moment and gave a greeting to everyone. Aizawa slipped out the door and class began. Taking notes for Izuku was very easy. He split his digits and typed every word Cementos spoke. Thankfully, the keyboard was completely silent as his hands were a blur. It distracted a few for a moment, but they learned to ignore the bizarre scene. Soon class came to an end and Izuku opened a new page to type his notes. Izuku? Shiro asked next to the feral boy. Yeah? Why are you using a computer to take notes? Wouldn't it be easier to write? Some of the class was paying attention to the conversation. Izuku took out a post-it note from his bag and wrote his name. He handed it to Shiro, and he was surprised at the writing. I caught up with my studies, but I neglected my writing skills. Oh, I'm sorry. Shiro tried to apologize. Why are you sorry? Izuku tilted his head in confusion. Shiro looked a bit awkward at that. Shinso spoke up from behind Izuku. It's a way to show sympathy for another. Also, email me those notes, and I'll bring you food tomorrow. Izuku nodded in understanding. Not your fault, he said to Shiro, and he gave a small smile towards him. And what's email? He turned to his friend. A way to message people through the internet. Kaken spoke up and watched Izuku interact with others. Oh, thanks, Kaken. At that moment, Midnight walked through the door to begin the next class. Hello, class. You can call me Kiyama or Midnight. Either is fine. She stood in front of the podium with her folder. Kaminari raised his hand and asked, Kiyama, as in Izuku Kiyama? He pointed at the class feral. Yep. I didn't want my old family name, so I asked her if I could use her family name since I was dead, and Niza needed to do stuff, so I would be alive again. He quickly explained. That's right. Without an ounce of shame, he asked for my name. She tried to tease him. Most of the class guffawed at that and shot Izuku looks. Sadly, teasing him never works. I still don't understand. Izuku shook his head. Anyways, I will be teaching you modern hero art history. So the lesson began with the hero beginning to explain what they will be learning in the class. After her class was ectoplasm, he taught mathematics. Izuku found it simple and was able to write on the screen of his computer for more detailed equations. Izuku found it enjoyable to learn new things, and this reminded him more of his time with Asato when she gave him tests on the computers. Soon, the class came to an end, and there was an audible sigh of relief from some. Ectoplasm gave a huff of amusement as he walked through the doors. Izuku stood up and stretched. His stomach grumbled, and he was prepared to run out to his territory for a quick hunt. Kaken derailed his plan for a meal. Izuku? Right. What did you want to talk about? The feral boy asked as his tendrils put his stuff away. You have somewhere private? I do. Follow me. He led his old friend to his room. I'll see you guys later. He waved to his friends. Don't die? Shinso shouted back. Should we be worried that he will get into trouble? Jiro asked. Nah. If anything, he will end up killing whatever is trying to. Kill him. Shinso waved them off. Izuku opened the door to his room and welcomed the blonde inside. This is my room. I don't use it other than to keep my stuff and to shower. Kaken looked around and took a seat at his desk. Do you remember from before? He began. Izuku sat on his bed, and it sank slightly. Not much, it's foggy. I remember us being friends and our mothers being friends, but that was mostly all of it. Why? Kaken shook his head. Just curious. My mom wants to meet you, or more like reunited with you. Will you? Of course. I'd be happy to, but not today. The trial for my mother is today after school. What? We were never told. Kaken looked shocked. Where is it? Do you know? I can find out. Izuku pulled his phone out of his bag and tapped around until he found the phone book. He pressed Nizu's number and called. Izuku, what can I do for you? Nizu asked with his usual chipper attitude. Kaken wants to know where the trial is going to take place. Do you know where it is? Of course. I'll send you the location on your phone. Thanks. He looked at the message and then held it out to the blonde. I don't know how to do stuff like that. Kaken took the proffered phone and forwarded the message to his phone. I put in my phone number. Great. Anything else? Izuku smiled at his friend. No. The main thing was so you could come over and talk with Mom, but now the trial. Kaken dragged his hand through his hair. Izuku's smile fell as he smelled Kaken's mood. You were close with Inko? After you disappeared, she became close with our family. She watched over me and raised me with my mom. Now this, it's like everything I've known was a lie. He clenched his fists and closed his eyes shut. Izuku didn't know how to respond to that. His mother abandoned him and instead took care of the boy in front of him. He felt that anger flare up again, but not at Kaken, at his mother. She took care of you. That's what mattered, isn't it? Some bitterness leaked through. I'm sorry. I know it isn't fair, but... He waved his arms in frustration, trying to find the words. I get it isn't fair. It's not your fault. Izuku said softly. Yeah. They sat in silence for a moment, and then their stomachs grumbled for nourishment. Let's go eat before lunch ends. He offered. Right? Breakfast was a bit too small for me. Izuku took off his blazer and shirt. He slipped on a tank top and took off his pants for a pair of shorts. The blonde watched in confusion. What in the hells are you doing? My uniform will get dirty if I go hunt in it, Izuku said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. You are going to go hunt in the woods, over there? He pointed out the window to his woods. Yep. My den is there. I'll show you sometime if you like. With that, he opened said window and leapt out of it. Then he began to sprint at breakneck speed in search of his prey. The blonde shook his head and walked out of the room to eat his lunch. He called his mother on the way to the cafeteria to tell her about Inko's trial and where it was taking place. She immediately began to prepare and leave work early. Katsuki walked into the cafeteria and found a tray and filled it with something that he'd like. He found where Shinso sat and made to sit with him. Hey, Kaken, Shinso greeted. Don't call me that. Forget it. You've known Izuku longest or more recently. Is UA feeding him? Like giving him money for lunch and all? The blonde asked. Nizu gave him a credit card yesterday when we went out for food after school, so I think he's good. Why, where is Izuku? Mina asked with a raised brow. He ran into the woods to hunt, he said. He began to eat the food he picked up. Jiro snorted. Gods, he is so feral it's incredible. Oh, that's just how he is. Yesterday, he showed me his den and caught 2 big rabbits and cooked them right then and there. This morning, Mina and me ate some badger he probably hunted within the hour. He's been feral for most of his life. That's how he is. Katsuki listened carefully as Shinso explained. How was the badger? Shoji asked. Needed seasoning, but all right, Mina said. All right. They better be taking care of him, Katsuki said. Lunch hour finished, and they made their way to the last class of the day, heroics. Everyone funneled into class and excitedly waited for the next teacher to show up. Everyone was in their seats, but Izuku, who was still missing. Shinso waited for his friend to walk through the door, but instead, he heard a tapping from the window. I swear if I see him dangling from the window when I turn. He turned and saw Izuku's grinning face against the window. With a sigh, he got up and unlocked the window latch. Izuku scrabbled in and fell onto the floor with everyone watching. Made it in time. Izuku got up and smiled as the door swung open. I am here. All Might strode in with confidence, but paused at the scene before him. Then the class cheered at his appearance. Now onto the lesson at hand. But you'll need these. Meet me at Gamma Gym. With that, he disappeared out the door. Izuku was confused for a moment as he got the scent of Yagi, but it was All Might. Then he remembered he didn't know Yagi's quirk. Yagi had a quirk that turned him into All Might, which made sense to him. What are these? He pointed at the briefcases on the wall that everyone was taking. Hero suits. Yours is number 18. Shinso grabbed his own, and then Izuku's. Here, and let's go before it were late. They walked into the locker room with everyone changing into colorful clothes and some equipment. Izuku took a corner and opened his briefcases after some struggling. His hero suit was as simple as it could be. It was a skin-tight tank top and shorts, that was it. The back of the tank top had his signature of 3 claw marks painted on in gold with the clothes colored a forest green. Even though he was the last one in the locker room, he was the first one out. He turned to the sign where it said Gym Gamma and followed the arrow. He got the scent of Yagi again and was met with the skinny man behind the corner. Yagi still hadn't heard him approach. Hey, Yagi. Izuku greeted the man. Yagi, for his part, coughed up blood as usual and turned to see Izuku. His opinion of Izuku was that of a friendly feral animal. In the beginning, the month passed with a few interactions with the boy. He had grown fond of the wild child. But now he saw his secret identity. Young Izuku, you must not tell anyone about this. If you see me like this, then call me Yagi. See me buffed up, call me All Might. Understood? Yagi said urgently. Izuku shrugged. All right. I was confused for a minute when I got the scent of Yagi, but All Might showed. Yagi smiled at the honest boy and ruffled his hair. Good lad, by the way. For the upcoming exercise, you do know to not hurt anyone permanently or seriously, right? I figured. Izuku smiled up at the tall blonde. Yagi huffed in amusement. Go join your class. I can hear them coming. Izuku nodded and casually walked around as he waited for the rest of his class. Everyone had a myriad of different colors and styles. Izuku observed them all as they chatted between themselves. He joined his group of friends and looked over their costumes. You look like a copy of Aizawa, he said to Shinso. He is my favorite hero. Shut up. You look like some guy on the street. Shinso's ears burned as he tried to throw back the roast. I think it suits him, Mina said, bounding up to the two. What do you think, Zuku? Looks neat, he said, looking her up and down. Mina pouted again at his non-reaction. All right, you newbies. For today, we are doing indoor battle trials with teams of 2 against 2. One will be playing the villains and defending a bomb, and the heroes will attempt to stop them. Villains win by time running out or capturing both heroes. Heroes win by touching the bomb or capturing both villains. Teams are drawn by lot for more fun. All Might explain to everyone. Izuku looked at the ball with he printed on it. People began to find their partner, and Izuku found his. Bro, nice to work with you. Kirishima greeted with a toothy smile. Same here, Izuku said with his smile. First up is E for the villain, and A for the heroes, All Might announced. The rest follow me to the viewing room. Izuku looked at who they were fighting, and it was Sato and Hagakure. Izuku shifted his face and small pits opened around his nose. He could see Hagakure easily. It only took one night to figure out how some snake's pit organs worked, and now he had the perfect opportunity to test them. Let the best team win. Kirishima raised his fist to their opponents. Straight. Sato raised his fist in response. Izuku raised his fist, trying to mimic them. Yeah. Hagakure raised her gloved fist. Izuku and Kirishima walked up the stairs and found the bomb. Izuku tapped it and felt it was paper. Oh, it's fake. I thought it was real. Kirishima laughed in good nature. All right, so what do you want to do? I'm pretty excited about this. Izuku thought for a moment. Realistically, he could take out both of them, but Kirishima seemed interested in participating. What can you do? Like quirk and stuff. I can harden my skin, and I'm a good fighter. He showed by hardening his fists and clanging them together. That's neat. You already saw what I can do, so I can take out Hagakure and let Sato fight you. What do you think? Izuku proposed. Perfect. Let's move a floor down so we have some time if things go bad. Izuku nodded to his recommendation. All right, I'm off. Izuku walked up to a window to see what they were doing. He was just in time to see Hagakure remove her boots and gloves and then split off to the back of the building. Izuku had her scent and followed near above her. Start. The speakers throughout the building said. Hagakure disappeared instead, and Izuku dropped out the window and into a floor above hers. He shifted his hands to claws and made his way to the back stairs. He could hear her faintly downstairs as she made her way closer. Izuku decided to have some fun and climbed up the wall with his claws and prowled on the ceiling of the hallway. He smashed the lights and caused the stairway to go into darkness. Izuku clung to the corner of the wall and ceiling and waited for his prey to come. He was good at waiting. Toru slowly walked down the hallway to the stairs. Their plan was simple. Sato would cause a distraction by going in loud, and she would sneak in and win for the both of them. The only issue was Izuku, a complete wild card. While she didn't think he would hurt her or anyone, he was scary at times. Her thoughts were exemplified by hearing a glass break and the lights upstairs go out. She whimpered ever so softly, but moved forward. Without a sound, she climbed up each step in the complete dark. She felt her way up until she found the landing on the second floor. Then she felt something fall on her shoulder from above. It was concrete dust. Then, ever so gently, tape was wrapped around her forehead while a clawed hand held her shoulder. Hagakure Toru is out. All Might shouted. You did good. I barely even heard you, and I have very good ears. Izuku encouraged the frozen girl, and then she heard claws scrape and dig into concrete as he disappeared again. At least he is nice. She laughed softly. Izuku arrived back where Kirishima was left to see his teammate and Sato fighting it out. The feral boy decided to sit on the sidelines and observe them fight. He put himself between the stairs to the bomb and the ongoing fight. Kirishima seemed to be having fun as they threw fists back and forth and blocked very few. In a break, Sato took a bag of something white and dumped it in his mouth. He roared and picked up Kirishima before throwing him out a near window. Izuku saw him harden his whole body as he heard a crash 2 floors down. He couldn't worry about that as Sato turned to Izuku and charged. Sato, with his enhanced strength, threw a punch at the smaller boy, but Izuku dodged it swiftly and got behind him. Sato tried to backhand Izuku, but he was already gone. He was hit in the knee and fell. Then a steel-hard fist punched his temple, and Sato went down. Izuku pounced on the dazed boy and knocked the wind out of him. Quickly, he wrapped the tape around his wrist that was held together by his hand that had split to put them together. Villains win. All Might shouted, and Izuku cheered for his first victory. So, this was the end of part 2 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.